Good morning, Brookliners. Good morning. And visitors. Our first town meeting, at least in my memory, that we started at 9 o'clock. I guess nobody's here. That's all right. Let me read the warning here to start with. We'll kick it off, and we'll go from there. The legal voters of the town of Brookline are hereby warned to meet in the multi-purpose room at the Brookline School Building in the said town of Brookline on Tuesday, the 6th day of March, at 9 o'clock in the forenoon to transact the following business. Article 1 is to elect a moderator, which we need to do to open up the meeting.
I nominate David Parker. I nominate David Parker.
Marcia Omond has nominated David Parker. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close that process. All those in favor of electing David Parker as the moderator, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and I thank you once again for doing that. Sort of following our past historical practice, what I'd like to do, well, let me back up a little bit. We're going to have some housekeeping items just to go through. I don't want to do that right now. Our legislators are here to talk to you and answer our questions. And in order to let them speak, what we need to do is to make a motion, have someone make a motion to suspend the rules of the meeting in order to allow them to speak. And if that motion passes, that will happen. And once they have finished and you've asked your questions, we'll move on to Article 2 of the meeting. So the motion would be...
I make a motion, we suspend the meeting to allow our legislators to get their information.
Gary Livornia has made that motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules of the meeting to allow our legislators to speak. All in favor of doing so, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. And we'll turn the floor over to you two.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
thank you for being here and for welcoming us and for interrupting the orders of the day. We really appreciate the time that you're willing to spend with us. We've been asked to be somewhat brief, and that's fine with us. I want to first of all say thank you so much for starting your meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. It makes our lives so much easier as we try and make our way from here to Athens to Grafton and to Wyndham. So, and thank you so much. I wanted to let you know that in the back, as we typically do, there's a little county report that talks a little bit about what we do. Please feel free to take one, and then you can use it to start your next fire. But I would point out that on the back there's a little square here that gives all of our contact information, and we really invite you and encourage you to reach out to us with any thoughts, concerns, ideas that you have. We try very hard to be very accessible. I hope you found that to be the case in the past. There is a 1-800 number, which is included actually in the front part of our town meeting report. It's 1-800-322-5616. When you call, you'll get the Sergeant at Arms. They will leave us messages, and we will get back to you as quickly as possible. I would also encourage you, if you do email us, to identify yourselves as, we know most of your names, but as a resident of Brookline, we get a lot of spam and a lot of phishing attempts and all these other things that are meant to foul up the system at the State House. And so we are encouraged not to open attachments. Anything you can include in the body of the email is really encouraged, so that we don't have to open something up and potentially invite some terrible virus or whatever into the system. Also in the back, we brought you some Doyle polls. I noticed that there were some already here, but we've brought you some because we get stacks of them on our desks every year, and we'd love to get them out to you. Matt's going to talk a little bit about the unclaimed property sheets. We have a couple of copies of that. And then also, Samara has some of our petitions. We thank you for signing on. This allows us to get on the ballot to run again next time. I want to tell you just very briefly some of the things that we're working on in my committee, which is House Agriculture and Forestry. And if you have questions, we're happy to answer them. I'm happy to answer them. Matt will talk a little bit about appropriations. In my committee, we've worked on 4 major bills. One is the Regenerative Agriculture Bill. One is a Pollinator Protection Bill. One is a Rural Enterprise Development Bill. And the other one is has to do with third-party inspections of amusement rides at agricultural fields and fairs and field days. So we've been extremely busy on all of those. Luckily, we voted 4 bills out this last week, which was crossover. Thank goodness, that's our deadline. And if you have questions about any of those things, feel free. I want to leave some time to hear from you guys. And I'm going to turn it over now to Matt.
Thanks, Matt. I feel like I should be a few steps further this way because everyone's so far back to
Yeah, what is this, church?
We don't smell that bad. I rode over in the car with her so I can attach to thank you very much. It's good to see you all. I serve on the Appropriations Committee up there, as Carolyn said. And basically what that means is that the speaker appoints you to that committee and they throw you in the appropriations committee room and they lock the door and they make you stay in there until the state budget is out. So that has been my primary focus the whole time. What we're trying to do is come up with a budget that reflects the values that Vermonters expect from their state, but at the same time recognizing that there is a lot of fiscal responsibility needed, and there's a lack of ability to pay more. So we're working very hard to see what we can do with money to make our programs more effective and efficient, and to make the government work better. I'm more than happy to get into discussions about any of that. I know Carolyn and I just did a public meeting in Rockingham at the library, which video should be on fact8.com. If anyone wants to look, it goes very much in depth about what the state budget is, but in the interest of time, we'll stay out of that. Carolyn talked a little bit about the unclaimed property. After the treasurer came in to testify to our committee, I happened to go on the unclaimed property thing, website from the treasurer's office and saw that I was owed $93. So I had a nice little form filled out and was able to go out to dinner that night on money that I didn't know that I had. So what Carolyn and I did is we printed out 2 copies of the unclaimed property report for Brookline. So unfortunately, it's not in alphabetical order or in any order that's easily flipped through. But if you want to go through there and just look for your name or names of your neighbors or friends, it's money that's owed to you that the state is holding. So please contact the treasurer's office if your name is on there, because they will send you a check for it. And with that, let's answer some questions.
Any questions?
Are our taxes going down this year?
I'm sorry?
Are our taxes going down this year? They're way out of hand.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are getting crazy up there. And I can't afford it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm assuming everybody else can't either.
And that's exactly what we were talking about. We've been very conscious the past couple of years of not raising taxes and looking in some places to actually adjust them in other ways. You may have heard that there's a discussion going on in the Ways and Means Committee, which handles tax policy, to address the property tax issue for education funding. That's still a moving process. We're not sure what that's ultimately going to look like, but what that does is it changes the way we pay for education in the state in future years, which would have a major positive impact on the property taxes that you pay as a homestead. So we're looking into it, and we're very understanding I'm having the same problem. I look at the tax
And
bill.
you just said schools, and not against schools, but somebody's got to put a chain on that. They've got to slow down. They can't spend the way they are. They're just going wild. And I'm sorry, the sports programs are going to have to go. It's the way I see it. It's not an important thing, and they need education more, so.
Well, the way we handle education at the state is that everyone collectively votes their local school budgets in, and that costs, to make it, a lot easier than it is, or sound a lot easier than it is. Basically, the entire cost of educating all the students in the state gets sent up to the state, and that's the amount of money that gets raised. So any conversations about what goes on at a local school level,
Well,
this is the perfect place to have
it. Either, so.
I'm sorry?
They don't listen here either, so I guess that's about the same.
So Paul, just so you know, we brought some sheets, some one-pagers about the proposal that's being floated up at the State House right now in the Ways and Means Committee regarding education funding. And so the details are there. Don't ask me to explain them to you or lay them out for you, but it gives some of the points there. We've heard about this, and because I chair a committee, I sort of I'm in my own little silo, basically, no pun intended with the other thing, but Ways and Means has been working on this. They had a plan that they thought would reduce people's taxes by at least a third, but they have determined, as they've run the numbers, that the people who would be hurt the most or would be hurt are low-income people who live in high-spending towns. So I think they've gone back to the drawing board on that. We'll see when we get back to Montpelier how that all sugars off.
Yeah, okay.
All right?
As long as something's being done.
You're trying.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Carolyn? Go ahead, he wants to come back.
The way to do with taxes, the way this land use is, there's a lot of people out of state that got a lot of land and they pay low taxes, and the people that live here have to make up that difference. Why can't you make it the land use is for people that live in Vermont, and the other people, the heck with it?
Well, the problem is that the problem is that there are quite a few out-of-staters that own quite a bit of land. And the concern is that if we don't extend that to everyone, then they might just say, hey, we're just going to develop that land, or and so that it's a value judgment that's being made. One of the goals is to keep Vermont looking the way it is, keeping land in forestry and agriculture, can potentially cost some money. It is now raised on a state level. So there was a time, in fact, it sort of inspired me to run for office all those years ago, where at the 11th hour, the legislature dropped the burden, if you want to call it that, the responsibility of paying for current use on a town-wide basis. And I remember I was driving to Brattleboro with my kids, and Steve Darragh, who was a rep from Dummerston or Putney at the time, was hitchhiking. He was there for the kayak races in Jamaica. And I saw him hitchhiking, going back to Jamaica. I turned my car around, and I picked him up, and I gave him what for about doing that, because in Wyndham we have, a ton of land in forestry, some in agriculture, but at any rate, it's a value judgment that's been made, and that's the way it stands. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Go ahead, Linda.
I think go ahead.
No, you go first.
We're very polite.
Yeah.
And I love that about you.
I just wanted to thank the legislature as a family member of Gun Sense Vermont after that awful shooting there in Brookline. You have been very responsive, to really bills that have been going through. I think there's 3 or 4 going through now on gun regulation in a very common sense kind of way. And we really appreciate it. So I just wanted to thank you. And the rest, I'm not kidding you.
Well, we voted on one that has to do with red flags. You know, if somebody is, if there's a domestic abuse situation and they see that a gun is there, that they can take it for a period of time. I think it's a tough issue because, you know, my husband and I own guns. I feel strongly that, you know, guns and hunting are part of the Vermont tradition. And so I think our approach is to do common sense things that will hopefully save some lives, avoid situations like have happened in Parkland. I think it's very difficult because lots of people own guns. Most, I don't know, like the vast majority are very responsible, and we've never let something like this happen. But as we've seen, it does happen and almost happened in Vermont. Yeah.
And I would just add, you know, we have to be very, very careful. You do have a U.S. Constitution, and the Vermont Constitution is even stronger when it comes to rights of gun owners. But we're taking a look at some of those issues because I think that what happened, especially, I mean, every shooting that's happened has been terrible. But when we saw the near miss in Fairhaven and it came that close to home here, it opened the conversation in a slightly different way. And we're taking a very, very nuanced approach because it's a fine line to walk. And I think that there's, you know, with the willingness of the governor to have some conversations about it. We've been having some very good conversations, but it is very nuanced because, like Carolyn said, it's fine line.
No, I understand it. That's why the organization is called Gun Sense.
Yeah.
Took that title. Nice, but thank you. And the governor, I didn't realize he's good.
That was one I was going to talk about, but I'll just make a comment about the gun part. 97% of the people in this country want background checks, and the government's not getting it done. So if you just keep that in mind and do the nuance thing, but the but word doesn't work if somebody pulls out an AR-15 and unloads it on you in the gray. So you all have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about this issue as being, to me, just about the most paramount issue that you can think about. Now, what I wanted to talk about was the schools. And there was a lot of very good suggestions made by Paul and made by Dick. And the one thing that really irked me, and you know, I've been done my fair share of going to school, and I don't think I'm that stupid. I read an article in the Brattleboro Reform on the front page and went to the following pages one day while I was working out. I mean, I couldn't understand what the hell they were talking about. And I think that's a part of the problem. You have a disconnect between the legislature of Montpelier and the common people. They don't understand, for the most part, what the system is.
Are you referring to the education system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. I did spend a fair amount of time. I spent an hour with Bill Anton, superintendent of schools. I went up to several meetings, 2 or 3 meetings up at Leland and Gray. And my suggestion to everybody else is, if you're really concerned about the spending at Leland and Gray, which is really the crux of the issue, or Newbrook is level funded, is to go up there and have your feelings known. To say things here and then go home, they're not hearing you. So if you have, I'll give you one small example. Everybody's really upset about the social worker being cut out. We got it reinstated. So they had to adjust their budget based on that. If you have a bitch about too much sports, or I heard a huge bitch about too much transportation causing an expense on your local budget, you need to go up there and do something about it. Excuse me, I have no children. And the children in that building never have. But I'm concerned about this. I was cleaning out my taxes. Every year I clean out the 8th year for my accountant. And this is 2009, 2010. And my taxes were $24.68. Well, that was 10 years ago. They've just crested $4,000. So does that mean, you know, it's $1,500. So does that mean in another 10 years it's going to be $5,500? You know, so this is an issue. that everybody's concerned about. And I think it's a paramount issue because everybody's upset about their taxes. And I think I've seen it more now or in the last couple of years than I have previous because it's going up in chunks now. It's not going up 100 a year. It's going up 3-4, depending on your home, a year, and it's not good.
So, can I take this one?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So I really appreciate how you feel about this, and I actually serve as the school board chair in Wyndham, as well as state legislator. And so when we put our budget together, we're really conscious of all of the factors that are involved. It's very frustrating as we as a school board deal with constructing our budget and being conscious of penalty thresholds and all of that sort of thing.
But they don't understand that.
So for instance,
they don't understand that. People
yeah,
don't
so for instance, in the town of Wyndham, we had a modest 2.2% increase in our budget. We had an increased pre-K expense of nearly $10,000. We had an increase of $10,000 for our special ed. So in order to come in, these are things you have to do. In order to come in under the penalty threshold, we had to make other cuts. And so our total budget is going up at $8,000 and change, but we had to absorb $20,000 in expenses additional that's mandated. I wish that we could figure out a different way to go about this. Compounding it was the elimination of phantom students. And we're planning a budget for 20 kids. We have 15 in the school now, 20 kids plus about 6 pre-K kids. But we have to get our total for those 20 kids divided by a much decreased number because it's a rolling average from the 2 years before. So it's really difficult, and I share your frustration.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
Now, I want to ask everybody, by show of hands, how many people here understand the penalty threshold? That's my point.
Yeah.
No one knows. No one understands what the hell is going on. That's the first thing. The second thing, I'll go back to my original point. Both schools were level funded. In the case of Leland Gray, I think it was less. Didn't they go less? I'm talking about spending from one year to the next year before the penalty. Do I understand that correct, Carolyn?
I'm not as familiar with the Leland and Gray budget, but I do know that they came in above the penalty threshold.
Yes, they did.
And it may be because they've eliminated phantom students. There are a whole bunch of factors involved in this.
And nobody understands that.
That come up with equalized pupils.
Right.
So it's very complicated. Years ago, I had Brad James and Bill Talbot, who were the education gurus, come to Wyndham twice because after Act 60, our taxes went up 40% the first year and 30% the next year. And they explained it, but I can't say that it's gotten any easier. In fact, it's gotten more complicated.
It's going to take leadership. It's going to take the governor.
Every time an issue comes up, we try to fix it, and it makes the system more complex.
Yep.
At its core, the issue, to bake it all down into something fairly simple, which it isn't, the biggest problem with education is we make decisions locally, but we raise the money statewide. And as soon as you have that disconnect, the system has to be confusing to make it all work out. Well, when you have towns that are decreasing their budget but yet seeing an increased tax rate, residents of that community will then turn around and say, why bother? Why bother making this change if Burlington is just going to increase their spending and it costs me more money? The system at this point has reached very close to, if not been past, a breaking point, which is why we're seeing some of those situations about Ways and Means is looking at new ways of dealing with it. The problem is there's no easy solution to abide by the Brigham decision, but at the same time to allow for that local control to continue. So it's a very, I feel like I'm saying there's a fine line to walk too many times today, but there's a fine line to walk there as well. And the legislature is looking at.
Margaret?
I have a different question. Margaret Carson, when the budget did go down for Linda Graham, very familiar with it, it went down 0.6,
Right.
sorry, percent, but it increased because of the level funding 4.6. So that's the mess up. But my question is about the income tax. How are income taxes connected to the federal tax? And is the federal tax going up this year or changing, where we only have to do it on a postcard? It's going to increase most of our taxes here in the state of Vermont. And here I've been following that very carefully about what the committee has been doing. And I'd like to know if you could explain that to the people here and to also yes, talk to us about whether you support it.
Sure.
Okay.
So there's a couple pieces in whatever you try to explain tax policy, and neither of us are real experts on tax
It's
policy.
a ways and means issue.
Yeah,
That's probably best.
but I
prepared to
can-
talk about it.
Sitting on appropriations, we've had several conversations about it. So the issue is that there were massive changes to the federal tax code, and because of the amount that the Vermont income tax code relies on the federal tax code, our tax code was affected by that in a major way. So there's something like $30 million or something. 40, that's right, it's 42, because the 30 is the other side. Yeah. So there's $42 million that is going to come into the state if we do nothing. That would be sort of a passive tax increase on Vermonters. So both the governor and the legislature are committed, and I always hesitate to speak for Carolyn when she's standing right there, but I know that Carolyn and I are committed to looking at this issue also.
Yes.
You can correct me if I'm incorrect.
I'm with you.
But we do not want the federal tax changes to artificially increase taxes through doing nothing. So what the Ways and Means Committee has been doing is looking at how you make the changes necessary to the tax code so that that money balances itself out. Where you may see that come in is there were some people that benefit under the state tax thing and those that don't. You may see that level out so that everyone sort of comes out net neutral on the state tax side because of it. It's very difficult to go in and target individual taxpayer A and say, we're going to create a policy that gets at this person. But the core principle is that no one wants to see Vermonters have to pay an additional tax due to the federal tax return. I hope that answers your question.
It sort of does.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it slow down this year, like we've slowed down the education tax that they're looking at, and that committee reported in. What I heard on the news was that that was being, don't rush to change how education is funded this year, and I hope that the income tax part of it is not affected by that too.
So that is
we really
moving.
need a break.
Yeah, that is moving as a separate bill, separate issue. One thing I can tell you is that when you don't like something, an easy way to say that it should stop is to say, it's moving too quickly. You hear that very often. But the other thing I would say is that you've had such a commitment from, I can point to press conferences from the Speaker of the House, the Senate President Pro Tem, and the Governor saying, we do not want Vermonters to have to do this. So that something, well, it's hard to say, you guarantee that something will be done, but of all the issues out there, that is the one that has the support of all three to move forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. On a little lighter note, and I'd like to thank the state legislators for funding state highway projects in the form that they have. In the last few years, the Brookline has been fortunate in getting approved for three large grant projects. One was a highway paving project, affected the road right out front here. One is a structured project for a culvert replacement down on Grassy Brook Road, and one for a new sand and salt shed. We'll be receiving about $500,000. And I know how highway funds get taxed, and I doubt that the people of Brookline send in $500,000 over the course of 3 years. So that money came from somewhere else. And I know that our education dollars go somewhere else. I think we send up when we get back. You know, I think I'd be rather willing to say that. In some ways, we do get some of that money back in other ways. Maybe that's unfair to make that statement, but
it's all part of being part of the state. I think we felt really strongly on the appropriations committee, the town highway funds are necessary to help local communities keep certain areas their tax rate low. And we pushed back fairly strongly against the agency of transportation, which one takes the money out of those, the town highway funds this year to use for other projects with the anticipation of paying back later. And we stopped them from being able to do that for that very reason, because it's really important for local communities to get access to money from the state to do the projects that they need to do and to maintain their infrastructure.
But there's no way the town of Brookline would ever come up with $500,000
Exactly.
in 3 years to do those 3 projects, because they simply wouldn't happen. There's such mandates on all of those projects. You can't go part way. You can't do half of it.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for that.
Anything else?
Thank you all. Thank you all so much for taking the time. Samara has our petitions, if you're willing to sign on so that we can run again, we appreciate it, and we'll get them back over.
I'll just leave them up here.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes, it's really good. Off to Athens. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And enjoy your meeting.
Okay. Couple of just housekeeping items. There is a list that will be going around for you to sign, just to let everybody know, make it official that you were here. So if that could circulate through the crowd as we go, and be returned eventually to Mr. Tanza. I would guess that would be a good time. The back table has a lot of things on it today. There are a couple of different surveys. There's one from Grace Cottage. There's another from a wellness group that is here. So during lulls, or if you're looking for reading material, if things get too boring for you, or you need to calm down, go back there, see what's there, and take what's appropriate, fill out what's appropriate, and go from there. There's also on the back table, if your name is not on Julie Livornia's list, to be apprised of happenings around town, things coming up, lost dogs, lost cats, things like that. It's a handy service. Add your name and your email to it, and you will be included there. A couple other things. If anybody has any questions as we go along, please feel free to ask. Yes, Linda.
I'd like to say that quickly to the Grace Cottage thing. It's a combined survey from Brattleboro, from Memorial, from the Truth, and it's wanting to let them know what our future needs might be, what they can put in service for us. So it's important that you fill it out. There's a big box back there with a slit in it, fill it out, put it in.
I actually got that survey in the email, which was electronically I could fill out too. Survey Monkey email from Brookline, Brattleboro and Grace Cottage, where they asked about those same
Oh,
questions.
okay.
So they are doing them electronically as well. They
I
have
wasn't aware, I was just asked to bring these to the meeting today to be filled out. These questions which are on top, because they're on top of the box. Thanks. Just wanted to emphasize that.
That's okay.
They gave me that charge.
That's right. That's right. Good. Yeah, at 11 o'clock, we're due to break for the school portion of the meeting. With any luck at all, we might, with our earlier start this year, maybe we'll actually make that. We'll take things as they come along, and my job today is to allow you to do the business that you want to do, and we'll do it in a civil manner, I'm sure. And go for it. So, I don't have any more to say. Take us to Article 2, which is to elect a town clerk. Nominations would be in order.
I nominate Guy Tanzer.
Guy Tanza has been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of electing Guy Tanza as your town clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and you've elected Guy Tanza as your town clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tanza will be paying you for your vote later. Article 3, to elect the town treasurer. Again, nominations will be.
I'd like to nominate Samara Zwick.
Bruce Miller has nominated Samara Zwick. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of electing Samara Zwick as your town treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. You've elected Samara Zwick as the town treasurer. Congratulations. Article 4, to elect the collector of delinquent taxes. Nomination.
I nominate Guy Tanzer.
Guy Tanza has been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of electing Guy Tanza as your collector of delinquent taxes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and Guy has been elected as the collector of delinquent taxes. Article 5, to elect all other officers required by law. If you turn to page 4 in your town report, you will see the list of positions that are available and up for grabs. We'll just go down the list. We've gotten as far as the delinquent tax collector in the lineup. And this would bring us to the select board. There's 2 seats that are up on the select board. If you just take them coming down, there's a seat that's currently occupied by Gwen Tanza, and that would be the seat that we will be looking at first. So nominations for that position would be in order.
I nominate Gwen Tanzer.
Gwen Tanza has been nominated for the select board seat. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor of electing Gwendolyn Tanza to a 3-year term on the select board, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and Gwen has been elected. Second select board position is one that is currently occupied by Chris Webb, who was appointed to a 1-year term. Nominations for that position.
I'd like to nominate Chris Webb.
Chris Webb has been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of electing Chris Webb as your selectman, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in favor, or those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. And you've elected Chris Webb to the select board. It's getting too easy. The next position that's available is a lister position currently occupied by Donald Goki. Nominations for that position will be in order.
I nominate Don Goki.
Don Goki has been nominated for the lister position. I'm presuming, Marcia, that he's in favor of that?
Yes, I'm interested.
Okay, it's not a fan of Gordon. Any other people listed interested? Hearing none, let's vote it. All those in favor of electing Don Goki to the available lister position, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. You've elected Donald Goki as your lister. There is an auditor position currently occupied by Heidi Nystrom. Nominations for that position would be in order.
Is Heidi still interested? Does anyone know if she's still interested?
I don't. She's done it for a long time.
I'd like to nominate Heidi Nystrom.
Good. It's a safe nomination. Not here to say. All right. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of electing Heidi Nystrom to the auditor position, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. You've elected Heidi as your auditor. We'll skip the school director. Brings us to cemetery commissioner position, currently occupied by Dorothy Maggio, who was appointed to that. Any nominations for that position, cemetery commissioner?
I nominate Dorothy Maggio.
Chris Webb has nominated Dorothy Maggio. Anybody else? Let's vote it. All those in favor of electing Dorothy Maggio as to the open cemetery commission seat, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. I don't know.
I think it's a 5-year.
5-year.
5 years? We know where you'll be for the next 5 years.
Enjoy.
And maybe beyond.
As long as we're not in there, it's fine.
That's right, above ground.
Okay, going down the list, that brings us to our constable positions. At least in my recent memory, the constable positions have been taken care of by the select board. It's a complicated issue nowadays. It's up to you guys whether one of you wants to become a constable. It's considerable training that goes into it nowadays. Or if you're just content to have the select board continue in this capacity, you can do that.
I move that the select board maintain the capacity of being responsible for the town constables.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to allow the select board to continue serving as the constables for the town. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, you guys will go out again. Trustee of Public Funds, position currently occupied by Guy Tanza. Nominations will be in order.
I nominate Guy Tanza.
Guy Tanza has been nominated, trustee of Public Funds. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of electing Guy Tanza as the trustee of Public Funds, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We've elected Guy as the trustee of Public Funds. Next position available is that of town agent, currently occupied by Guy Tanza. Nominations?
I nominate Guy Tanza.
Jerry Green nominates Guy Tanza. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of electing Guy Tanza as your town agent, please say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Opposed? Say no. The ayes have it. You've elected Guy Tanza as your town agent. Town grand juror position is next. Currently occupied by myself. Nominations will be in order.
I nominate David Y. Parker Jr. for town grand juror.
David Y. Parker Jr. has been nominated for town grand juror. Any other nominations? Let's vote. All those in favor of electing David Y. Parker Jr. as your town grand juror, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and you have elected me to such position. All right. Takes us to the end of Article 5. Article 6 reads, shall the town accept the auditor's report? We need to have a motion to do such in a second.
I make a motion to accept the auditor's report.
Motion has been made by Archie Clark to accept the auditor's report.
Second.
And has been seconded by Gary Livorni. Any discussion? Kathy? Hearing no discussion, let's vote. Shall the town accept the auditor's report? All those in favor of acceptance, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. We have accepted the auditor's report in Article 6. Article 7. Shall the town vote to approve the general and highway fund expenditures, net of non-tax budgeted revenues for the town as follows? The amount to be raised by taxes for the general fund, $143,005. Amount to be raised by taxes for the highway fund, $158,512. Total municipal taxes to be raised, $301,517. So,
I would like to make a comment, is now the appropriate time?
we need to have a motion. The motion would read, or should read, shall we accept the figure of $301,517 to be raised by municipal taxes? And a second for that, and then we can allow you to.
So moved.
It's been moved that we accept the amount of $301,517. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Samantha Bovak. Now discussion will begin. Sally, you first.
Sally Fagley. I don't know if now's the appropriate time to make this comment, but I would like to pick up on the earlier discussion about our high taxes. When Tom and I moved to Brookline about 30 years ago, I knew this to be a low-tax town, and that situation has changed, and I'm not sure it's only because of activity on the state level. So I looked at the estimated tax rates, and the current rate of 2.31 is higher than our towns in the area, other towns in the area. Dummerston is at 1.9889, Townsend 1.6349, Vernon 1.8764, Marlborough 2.09. So there are many towns in the area that have significantly lower tax rates than we do. And then I see there's a 4% increase projected for next year. I just don't understand why our taxes are going up so rapidly. And I'm not attaching this to the highway situation only. This is just a general statement that I would ask the select board to just watch spending.
We do.
We do.
Go ahead, Sally.
Sally, the rates you're comparing to are not including the education rates.
And that's not true. I called all these towns and I got their homestead tax rates,
All right.
including education.
Okay, well, that would be one question. The 2.31 does include our education rate. If you take out the 1.8, if you look at the decrease from the prior year, you'll see that overall our municipal taxes go down 2 cents. They go down close to 3 cents.
What page are you on, Samara?
I'm on page 21. If you look at our Brookline estimated tax rates, and yes, we are now a little higher, but there are other things that happened over the years. For example, like none of the budgeted time or salaries for town. One of the increases that happened over the last 2 years, not this year, was that salaries and payment for town operating services had not increased for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. They hadn't been raised at least since 2011 when I came on board. So that changed 2 years ago. Is that 2
2 or 3 years ago, yes.
2 years ago. So this year, we did our best to hold municipal rates even. We've had increases in expenditures for printing costs and all kinds of things, so.
I don't see how other towns are doing with so much less than that.
Well, part of the education rate that impacts us has to do with the common level of appraisal, and that is a statewide issue. So on a municipal basis, you'll actually look, compared to last year, our rates went down on a municipal basis. So that's, I mean, I think you just have to look at the sheet and you can see that other than, there are really no special articles warned. We've been using up funds that have accumulated to pay for a lot of the highway expenses in addition to the grants we receive. And I think the select board is pretty measured, but they're also trying to be fair to, the people that work here. I mean, if people cut down their hours and stop doing the work, then taxes could be a lot lower. Maybe they have a higher, I don't know, I'd have to talk to the towns. Maybe they have a different, other than the difference in the education, the property value levels, which significantly impact our taxes. I think we try our best to hold down the municipal tax rates.
I'd like to add to that equation. The bottom line is that a small town of 530 people still requires the same things that a town that has 2,000 or 4,000 people. We still have to have a town clerk. We still have to have a treasurer. We still have to have a select board. We have to have all those offices. And our compensation rates are at least at the same amount or even less. Just as Samara said, 2 or 3 years ago, we were so far below the rate that the rest of the state was getting. We get a compensation book from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which show towns predicated on our population. So we are there with that. It takes a lot more money to run a smaller town, unfortunately, than it does to take a big town. It's just a matter of the way the math is doled out. And right. The CLA, we have a base rate of 336 parcels in the town of Brookline, and we have a valuation of $77 million. We have to take that $77 million and take all the money that it takes to run the town and divide it into that $77 million to get to our tax rate. So that's why a town like maybe Townsend or Newfane, they have a little lower tax rate. But there are a number of issues that go into the equation. And unfortunately, a small town is more expensive to run than a big town.
Gary?
Yeah, I want to expand on that. Most of the towns you mentioned are higher population.
That's right.
Right. It's a larger denominator, in essence.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that this select board, if you ever been to a meeting or looked at the minutes or seen them on TV, they are tight with a buck. One of their primary premises is, how do we save the town money? They don't spend unless they have to. So I would say that that's a plus for this town.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For 2 months, we prepared this budget. And if you look at the number on that page, it says $301,517. When I saw that figure came up, I almost hit the roof. But, and the reason why I almost did, Sally, is because last year's number was, I think if you take 11,000 plus $295, that'll come to the figure of what it was last year. I don't have the book sitting in front of me.
It was 292.22.
292.22. But I was ready to hit the roof, and then Chris brought up the thing, well, wait a minute. And last year's articles, Article 11, stated an extra $11,000 for expenditure for recycling. Now, if you take that $11,000 and add it to the 290 figure that Chris just mentioned, we're within $295 of level funding. That's what I was interested in. I can't speak for everybody else on this board, but that's what I was interested in. And like Gary said, we, for 2 months, cracked the whip. And if you see the appropriations are down, we have tried very diligently. We had certain things we won't cut. If you notice, your roads are better. Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Mark. I can get into that for half an hour if I I guess that's the bottom line. We've been very tight with the buck. Everything that's been said prior to me, I echo. And if anybody's got any suggestions how to cut it further, we'll consider it.
To reiterate on that, in some cases, volunteers have stepped forward to save the town money. For instance,
Yes.
last year, Fitzpatrick tore up a section of paving, and instead of him paying for us, he traded stone, which we use around the building to prevent water from coming in this building. All done by volunteers. So if more people volunteer, it's going to cost us less money. And there's a lot of small projects that can be done.
But we're open-minded to suggestions. If you all are not happy with something in the book, come to a meeting, send us an email or whatever.
I might add that we're probably one of the only towns that we have no vacation time, we have no medical payments. The only benefit that we have as a town employee is workman's compensation. Every single town, or just about every single town in the state, pays medical, pays vacation, pays time off, and so forth. So again, I think we're very, very fortunate to have what we have. A small town of 530 people is a very, very expensive thing to do. And that's why some of the school districts are trying to consolidate, because their thinking is that if you put everything in one building, it might be cheaper. I don't know how that's going to play out. But in the town of Brookline, we're as close to being as careful as we can possibly be.
I'm trying.
Yep. So again,
at last year's select board meeting, we did have to amend the warning for the amount raised by taxation because we had a deficit last year of over $20,000 due to excessive legal fees in fighting a tax case.
Tax assessment.
Tax assessment. And one of the goals that we established last year after this meeting was not to have that happen again. And if you notice that our last year's taxes, we actually had it's the opposite of a deficit.
Surplus.
A slight surplus at the end of the fiscal year. You can see at the bottom of the page of Article 12 how we would like to apply that surplus so that we didn't have to raise taxes for those additional fees. When we're looking in the future, since I've been on the select board and since Samara's been here, we haven't had a full accounting we have to start raising money to do an audit, which will double check all of our figures that we have been using over the past few years. And we may also have to start looking at having another town-wide reappraisal, because when those those numbers start to fluctuate, we have to take a look to see if the properties that are assessed at their proper amount. So that is something that we're looking at in the future as well. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Sally.
Other questions or discussion? All right, let's take it to a vote. The motion would be to approve $301,517 to be raised by municipal taxes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and you've approved the sum of $301,517 to be raised by taxes. Article 7 passed. Article 8, to see what dates the town will vote to collect taxes. In case anybody's forgotten, feeling nobody has forgotten. Those dates currently are August 15th, November 15th, February 15th, May 15th. Those can be whatever you want them to be. You need a motion to open this and a second. Margaret?
Motion to open discussion, but I'm also going to
Are you willing to use that, the current dates as the
current dates.
Okay, so a motion has been made to keep the dates the same as they are. Is there a second for that?
I second.
Okay, Jerry Green has seconded that. Discussion. Margaret?
I just think it's a lot easier to pay 4 times a year. Guilford, they pay once a year, and I'll tell you, people down here have been doing taxes for people as a volunteer. They struggle with that. They have a hard time with it. Usually 4 times a year is a lot easier.
Looking at the length of tax list, looks like we must be doing something, right?
That's it.
Any other, Marcia?
Would you review those dates again, please?
Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're sort of etched into my checkbook anyway. August 15th, November 15th, February 15th, May 15th. Okay, if there's no more discussion, let's take a vote. Basically, the motion was to keep the dates the same as they are. I won't read the dates again. All those in favor of doing so, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Approve and reapprove the current schedule of tax payments. Article 9, shall the voters appropriate $6,206 to be raised by taxes in continuing support of the following organizations? I'm not going to read the whole list. Total, all appropriations requests to be voted, $6,206. It's been moved to accept that figure. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gary Livornia. Any discussion? Wendell?
Yes, I'm at Grace Cottage. I came before the select board, asked for a $2 million increase. I had a lot of statistics, a lot of discussion, and I see it's been left at the 300. Over half the town uses Grace Cottage, and that seemed like a very low tax.
Grace, I do remember, thank you for coming to one of our select board meetings. We wish more people did. Grace Cottage initially did send us a written request for $300.
Yes.
And then when you came, but we had already set our numbers at the $300 point when they came back a few weeks later and asked for the $500 donation. So we have a cutoff for accepting the appropriations. They start coming in they come in all year long, pretty much, but we have a deadline, and it was after that deadline at that particular time. If you wanted to amend it.
The system is a little peculiar then, because I came at the appropriate meeting to ask for the increase, realizing they made a mistake, they told me to the same amount. And I realized they then sent a letter, but now we go a whole another year, is it $200? Well, they're asking for $500. It's a huge service to our community, and over half, I got all the statistics to the meeting. So I would ask that go up. I can't do that now, I have to go back, come back next week.
No, correct.
No, you can do it.
We can make an amendment.
Any number
I did come
here?
at the right time to talk to you.
You did.
But then
You
I
did.
inadvertently,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd just clarify, you did. I think the view of ours at the time, though, was that the organization itself
Right.
had requested
right.
$300.
I understand that, and they were apologetic.
And you were you made very good points, but we felt we were a little bound by what the organization had actually
I
requested.
guess I'll move it, whatever I have to do.
Yeah.
It's a vital community service. We all use.
Guy?
I'd just like to add to that. The appropriation list is basically for nonprofit places, people that are in dire need, that help the community and so forth. When I go to Grace Cottage Hospital, or when any of us go to Grace Cottage Hospital, we get a bill for the services. We're billed quite handsomely, and I have a hard time because I'm a taxpayer like all of you. And my objective is to keep my taxes as low as possible. And I find it difficult to appropriate money to a business that's charging us an exceptional amount of money for services. So we don't get anything free when we go to Grace College. We get nothing free, except, no, not even a flu shot. That my insurance company pays for. So when we looked at the numbers that the appropriations, we kept it at what they requested at $300. And yes, you did come to a select board meeting and ask for an increase to $500. But I think some of the resistance was that maybe, you know, it's a business. It's not a organization that requires volunteers and so forth.
Oh, I would like to, I really love that. I'd like to tangle with that.
Well, tell you what, let's do this the right way.
Okay.
If you would like to make an amendment to this,
Oh, well, let's see.
then we can do that, and I can help you through that,
Okay.
or at least as best I can. We'll see if you want to make the amendment. It needs a second. And then we can discuss amending the amendment.
I second the motion.
So I am at your behest right now. You have the floor. How much?
So I'll make a motion, we increase the allocation for Grace Cottage Hospital by $200,000.
Okay, so that would bring it up to 500. That's what Linda Ball has offered an amendment that would raise the amount of money to go to Grace Cottage by $200, making it $500, which would make the bottom line $6,406, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second for that amendment?
I was thinking it.
It has been seconded. So it's been moved and seconded, we can discuss this. Now, would you like to tangle with Guy?
No,
Jesus Christ.
again, we had a question about taxes, and we're doing everything in our power to keep taxes at a level fund or below, and 200 here, 100 there. I have nothing against the organization itself. I think it's a great organization, but it's not a freebie. I mean, we go in there and we pay for services. So I just want to, my objective is to keep the taxes as low as possible. So whatever I'm only one person. It's what the body decides on.
No, I agree with Guy, so, and I'm nothing against it, but they have a lot of money coming in. When you go there, they don't let you in unless you got insurance, and so they're taking in plenty of money on it.
Okay, Sherry Green.
I tend to agree with Guy as well also. My husband's older, we use Grace Cottage a lot. We pay for it, and we also donate to it. And I think a lot of people donate to Grace Cottage. When we get we could really use some extra money. So my feeling is let's try to keep our taxes at a level basis based on this, and they'll get a lot of good support from the community and volunteers too.
Dorothy and then Margaret.
In the back of the room is a binder which has a list of all the appropriations. My question is the Grace Cottage Foundation the same as Grace Cottage Hospital?
I sit on Grace Cottage Foundation board. I'm not going to continue because I'm not good at numbers, as I've said many times. But
it's not the same as the hospital.
Well, it is. It's an arm of the hospital. It's not the hospital board. It deals solely with raising money for the hospital. It's a representation of the various towns that use the hospital. People sit on it, and it's ways to fund. It's raised quite a lot of money through funds, through other organizations that are suitable for giving to those funds. So it's separate from the hospital board. The foundation board is addressing foundations and trying to get more money for the hospital. It's a very good, high-level active board.
This is the foundation run by Andrea Seaton?
It's not run by her. She's the paid. The chair is, oh goodness, I've been going for 2 years. Senior role. But he's wonderful. He's in hospital work and he chairs it very well.
Margaret.
I agree with Guy and everyone else. I just have a question for everybody here. How many of you use the More Free Library? Look at that. Do you realize that More Free Library gets absolutely no funding in taxes from anywhere? It's total donation. Their endowments are not that high. They're not high at all. Yet they came back with, what, a $25 increase? Yet how many of us use it? How many of you don't have to raise your hands, actually contribute to the More Free Library? To join down in Brattleboro, it's, well, for Guilford, but somebody told me it was $32. I don't know what it is out here. I know they raise the rates if you don't live in Brattleboro. So if we raise any money, because they get no tax money, I'd rather put it towards the More Free Library. Many of us donate individually to the foundation. And if you don't want to know, if you don't want to be part of the names on the list, you can go in as anonymous. Anyway, that's my point.
Gary?
You mentioned Guy, there are volunteers that help out the hospital greatly.
Yes, I stand corrected.
Okay. Also, the hospital writes off a lot of stuff when they don't get the bills paid. For instance, Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, they don't get what they need to get, so they write that off. The third thing is that when that little brochure comes around, they have a wish list. And if you want to donate, you can do that. But I don't think we as a town should raise our taxes for that reason.
Anybody else? Okay. Linda?
Yes, Grace Cottage is such an integral part of our community. It was just placed in the top 20 of rural hospitals in the country. And it greatly increases our property values. We have such an excellent hospital. It's not all bill paying. There's a lot of care that goes on in there that's not charged by dollars and cents. It's an integral part of it. And I'm kind of ashamed that our community would only give $300 to our community health care system here that we all use. I brought the statistics. I didn't realize it wasn't going to go up on this budget, so I didn't bring it back. But it's heavily used, as people are saying. It's not a money-making business. It doesn't make money. That's why we constantly are seeking donations. It needs help, and to give an extra $200 from the town, over half of our residents used it. I think it's even more than that. And we should be very thankful that we have an institution of that caliber of medical care to take care of us. It's astounding the care. So I'm kind of ashamed that we wouldn't go up like that.
Paul, go ahead.
What is the problem with them not asking for $500 next year and leave it go the way it is right now?
Begging the question, they made a mistake this year and asked for a lower than I came as a representative of them.
Anybody else? All right, we'll take the amendment to the vote. The amendment that was moved and seconded was to increase the payment to the Grace Cottage Foundation by $200. All in favor of doing that, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No.
Even though my ears are old, I think the no is happening. So the amendment has been defeated. It brings us back to the original article, which is shall the town voters appropriate $6,206 to be raised by taxes in continuing support of the following organizations. Any discussion? Hearing none? Let's go to a vote. Do we approve the amount $6,206? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We've approved $6,206 under Article 9. Article 10. Shall the voters appropriate $100 to be raised by taxes in support of Gerda's equine rescue? Need a motion? And a second.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second to this?
Second.
Moved and seconded to appropriate $100 in support of Gerda's equine rescue. Discussions? Samantha?
Can I ask why it's a separate article?
I knew somebody would ask that question.
If it's a
And it's a good question. I'll throw that in the door. See that.
Well, we have a request that was not in the appropriations list in the previous year. We want it as its own article. One of the reasons why we did put this article down and accept the request from Gerda's Animal Equine Rescue is as the Assistant or Deputy Animal Control Officer working with Nancy Libby. We not only deal with dogs, we also deal with horses. And this year, while I'd say it's easier to deal with the dog issues and not so really, but we can kennel a dog or we can try to bring it to Windham County Humane Society if it's a lost dog and such. But when we have problems with horses that are not being maintained, we actually had to confiscate from, one was left after the person moved, but remove from the owners horses that were being mistreated and malnourished. And Gerda's Animal Aid came in on 2 different occasions this year and trailed out of Brookline 2 horses that needed to be rehomed because their current owners were deficient. The horses were starving. They had a scale of body scale of 1 to 10. Both the horse and the miniature horse had a body scale of 1. So they were really skin and bones, and I have the pictures to show. So we were very grateful for being able to have Gerda's Equine Rescue, which is located in Townsend, to step up and take the animals away. And so when the appropriation request for $100 for this association came in, we did put it as its own article.
In one of our meetings when we discussed this as well, that you had mentioned that Gerda's kind of saved us legal fees.
Oh, we would have had to, if it wasn't for Gerda and the way she handled the owner, we would have had to have gone to court to obtain custody of the animal. But Gerda was able to convince the owner to sign it over to us. And so we could then not have to legally go into court and have to spend a lot of money and time on that issue. Thank you.
So if we approve it today, that will go into the appropriations list
If they request it again next year.
If they request it.
It wouldn't be under its own article, it would be up in the paragraph.
Yep, thanks.
Since we approved $500 for the Wyndham County Humane Society, and they take care of mostly small animals, I think $100 is reasonable for the horses, especially in case they say food. I mean, this was a rural agricultural community, and there were horses here all the time. And I read someplace that in the old days, the rich people had the cars and the poor people had the horses, and now it's the poor people have the cars, the rich people have the horses. I don't think $100 is unreasonable just for feed alone. I mean, that would be reasonable. It's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Just have one quick comment.
Yeah.
Generally on the appropriations, so when we do the appropriations, we've now got it to a system where it comes in at a certain time, and after that, we don't accept it. And at that point in time, they have to have an explanation why they want the money. So I just wanted everybody to understand that we just say, oh, we'll give it 200 here. Okay, there you go. We analyze every one of these appropriations per what they have to say in the request. So for me.
And also, I guess, to add that in the back on the table is a binder with all of the letters from the actual bodies that have requested appropriation.
There's 12 individual. There's a few packets of copies if people want to take them home with them. The binder, what's in the binder, everything that's in the binder, there are some photocopies if you want to take home your own and read what the requests said.
The other point I'd like to make is when you rescue an animal, especially on a 1 to 10 body scale, you gotta have a vet. You know, somebody's not paying a vet to come and look at that animal and give it whatever it needs in treatment, and that costs money. And so I think $100 is very inexpensive for what we're done.
Okay, let's vote it. Will you vote to appropriate $100 for Gerda's Equine Rescue? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. No. The ayes have it, and we voted $100 to support the rescue. Article 11. Shall voters of the town of Brookline vote to collect its current taxes by its town treasurer pursuant to 32 VSA section 4791? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we do this, which is pretty much, I think, a boilerplate article. Nothing sneaky or special about this. It happens every year. Discussion. Hearing none, let's vote. And you're voting as the voters of the town of Brookline to collect our current taxes, to have our town treasurer do this pursuant to 32 VSA section 4791. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and we approve Article 11. Article 12. Shall the town apply the budget surplus from the 2016-2017 budget in the amount of $5,456 in the following manner? $2,000 dedicated to the audit reserve, $2,500 to the tax abatement reserve, $956 in the capital improvement reserve.
So moved.
Article 12 has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Kathy?
Okay, as I mentioned before, we did have a slight surplus of this 54, 56 at the end of the fiscal year in July, end of last June. We did not put a audit reserve money, we did not collect any audit reserve money last year, but we did the year before. We will have to collect close to 10,000. Samara, what do you think an audit would cost for the town of Brookline?
Well, the last one cost around $15,000, but I think it would be less this time around. But my guess is somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. And rather than have to assess it all in 1 year, the thought was to, start putting away money for the time when we need another outside independent audit. The records are in significantly different order now, so I suspect that the audit could be, would not go over budget as it did in prior years. So. But fees being, I just looked at an estimate for one that was in that range, so not for us, for something else, but. So the thought was that maybe every 4 or 5 years there should be an independent audit, because while our auditors are very competent, they're also not full-time auditors, and they don't have the resources or the time, because they all work full-time jobs elsewhere, to really do a full-fledged audit. And even more particularly, when the time comes when I am no longer treasurer, it might be very helpful to the person coming in to have an audit between the change of officers. As much as I appreciate getting elected, it's not my life's calling to remain town treasurer, I'm afraid, until I...
else now?
Pardon?
Did you know you can't do anything else? You're stuck with that job.
I kind of noticed, but I am hoping that there are ears out there that might be interested in a few years working it on, but anyway.
Thank you so much. So that was one of the parts when it was the audit reserve. Tax abatement reserve, if we do a reassessment in the near future, we may have some issues where people might come back and ask to have their taxes reviewed and abated. We did have a tax abatement hearing earlier this year for the Cutts family for prorating the taxes owed after their fire with the loss of the buildings. And so this was just a way of looking at how to appropriate the surplus. The last amount, the $956, we're looking at capital improvement reserve. We have pigeonholed it anywhere. We've talked around conversations about maybe getting a generator or a window air conditioner or fixing some other part of many buildings that the town now is responsible for. So that's how we broke down that surplus.
Archie, did you have a question or something?
I'd just like to make a comment that I personally feel that all this reserve should go in the audit reserve fund. I don't think, although these other two projects may be valid, I don't think there's any more valid use of this reserve than having a professional audit done sooner rather than later.
Good question. Samara, I'm going to ask another person. In a tax abatement situation, the last time, do you know how much we actually spent?
2148.
Yeah.
21 what?
2148.
21.
It was $2,148
No, I'm talking about-
was abated.
Not this past time, but I'm talking about 10 years ago when we had questions from people. You have a tax abatement issue after a reevaluation, is that correct? Of the town?
No, a tax abatement is a little different. You're talking about a tax assessment.
So, yeah, in point of fact, okay, so this year we did have a tax abatement issue due to the diminished value of property due to a fire, which most people are aware of. And so the Board of Abatement heard the facts and circumstances and made the decision to abate to reduce the amount, in essence, reduce the amount of taxes assessed on the property because of this impaired value. So going forward, because we're 6 months in arrears, our tax year ends on June 30th. We've already, in essence, spent the abatement money. We can't do anything about it retroactively, but we can set up the reserve in advance. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
So if we need to release the funds to pay for a deficit that might occur this year because we had to abate taxes for which we didn't have a reserve, we have the money set aside. Did I say that? Okay, yeah, okay. So I get a little muddled sometimes. I do think an audit reserve is important. I also think that the capital reserve, the town now owns 3 buildings. And in the auditor's report, they've alluded to the fact that they want an asset, a new financial report created, which would be essentially the part of the balance sheet that doesn't ordinarily get budgeted for, which is all the fixed assets the town now owns, which includes 3 buildings, the office, this building, and the church building, not to mention guardrails, et cetera, which also are considered fixed assets of the town, and technically even your roads, but I don't know, I'm looking into how the heck you record that and depreciate that, but you know, so capital improvement reserve may or may not become a more important feature of, and then the question becomes is how active can we get committees going to continue some of the really great fundraising that's been done to, you know, that would help increase funds available for capital repairs. So maybe they don't have to be raised by taxes necessarily.
Question for Samara, are you including the town shed and the new salt shed?
Right, the town shed, right, the highway fund.
And the round schoolhouse.
And the round schoolhouse, I forgot the round schoolhouse. See, I need this schedule so that I can keep them all straight.
Archie, would you like to make an amendment?
No, it was just a comment.
Any other discussion? All right, let's go to a vote. Really, I want to read the whole thing again. All those in favor of Article 12, the way it's written, please say aye.
Aye.
No is away. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and you've approved Article 12 as it is written. Article 13. Shall the town vote to change town meeting dates to the Saturday preceding the first Tuesday in March pursuant to 17 VSA Section 2640B? Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay. It's been moved to move town meeting date to Saturday preceding the first Tuesday in March pursuant to 17 VSA 2640. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Again, this would be, the motion being made would be, well, we get to that when it comes time to be changing your town meeting day to Saturday as opposed to Tuesday. Discussion. Margaret.
You know, we look around, we don't see many people here because they're working, all right? So they're also
on Saturday running errands. I'd rather try a nighttime meeting. Vernon does it, and has a very good turnout. Their town meeting last night, sometimes it lasts 2 days, ended last night. There's no need for we do a potluck just like usual, but I really think on Saturday, people who are working Monday through Friday spend Saturday doing their errands, doing what you have to do that you can't get done during the week. And if we move it at all, I'd rather see it either an evening meeting, try one of those first before moving it to the end to a weekend day.
One of the reasons that I support the move is that lately we've had many Australian ballots on the same day as town meeting. That presents a bit of a logistic problem for myself and for the election committee. Right now, Gwen is there with Cynthia now in the town office for the Australian ballot for the at-large members for the Act 46 Super Board. That was one of the concerns. Next year will be the presidential primary, same day as town meeting. So one of the reasons that I support it was to move it so that we can have all people here at a town meeting on a Saturday, or at least have people who cannot get the time off from work, who don't have that time off, to maybe hopefully have more participation in town meetings. So that's why I support it. And again, I'm only one voter.
Anybody else? Marshall?
I do know years ago, they used to have it at night, and plenty of people came. Always nothing. At the town meeting in 91.
Yeah, I kind of started all this, so if you want to get out your stone.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand a word.
My name is Bruce Mello. I said I kind of started this discussion last summer, so if you all want to throw stones. Wait a minute, just let me finish. My idea was one idea, the obvious, to get more people there. The 9 o'clock thing worked in one respect, but it didn't work on the other respect. We're not getting the people here. So my thought is entertain all ideas, and whatever's the most popular way, that if we can come down to a better time and a place, boy, I'm in favor of it. We need to get a better, larger amount of people to come to these meetings, to come to town meetings.
Pete and then Gary.
I know about 4 or 5 people who would have liked to have come here if they could get off work. So just to reinforce that. But I think it's a good idea the evening, or at least the late afternoon, 4 o'clock for the potluck, and then carry on and something so people do have that time. It's really good. But so evening, I think is
we have the time, so we can discuss it.
Gary?
I remember, I can't remember, maybe Arch can refresh my memory. We had a severe snowstorm one year, and the roads were not open enough to get a town meeting, and it was postponed till Saturday, and I can't remember if more people came to that meeting or not. I know a lot of people had to walk there, but you remember that, Arch?
I think we're still cleaning up. That's Saturday.
I'd just like to say my Saturdays are as busy, if not busier than my Tuesdays, and I like the evening idea.
Dorothy?
How would that work with the Brookline School District meeting being warned for 11 o'clock on Tuesday, March 6th? How would that work? That's set in stone for be determined.
I don't think so. I think, it would be, again, I'm not the final authority on this, but my feeling would be it would happen at the same meeting. Could happen whenever it
May I
needs to.
address someone who's not a resident in the audience, our principal, Scotty?
Sure, he's a buddy.
Scotty, did the school board in February 14th, did they vote to have the 2019 warning for the Brookline School District meeting to be held Tuesday, March, whatever, 2019 at 11 o'clock? Is that already been warned?
No.
I'm Scotty Toshik, principal. Thank you for that. My understanding is that next year the budgets are going to be combined in one budget with
Right.
Leland and Gray, and that's gonna be a single vote.
Yep.
That just came up at the meeting at Newfane as well. So we have to keep that in mind, that there will be one vote. As far as the meeting goes, we did have to warn that final meeting of the Brookline Newfane Joint Contract Board. We're not going to be voting on the budget next year, but we do have some outstanding business that we'll need to do, and that will happen. And that's going to be like always, it'll be that Wednesday night. I guess it's right around Valentine's Day.
Yeah, February 15th, I think, next year.
I'm sorry, I don't.
But that wouldn't have anything to do with this meeting with the contract.
Right.
So it would just be 11 at night.
You know, I'm all for either a meeting or a Saturday. You know, this time of year is so tough with snow days and school days, and quite frankly, I'd rather be in school today, having missed so many days and knowing that we're probably going to miss a couple more. So I think an evening would be great.
Now, we can switch this next year. If we try a Saturday, we can switch it back next year.
Well, what's on the table here right now, what's on the warning is switching it to a Saturday. So when it comes to vote, if you're in favor of switching it to a Saturday, you're going to vote yes on it.
Right, I understand.
If you're in favor of just leaving it, I don't think so. I think.
Well, we can make an amendment for next year or something, however that's done. I think the Saturday.
Just like the board, let me finish it for a minute. Just like the board decided to go for a 9 o'clock start to this meeting today instead of 10, they could easily say 6 o'clock at night, as long as it's on that same day. Because the article that's here is just for Saturday. I don't think we can amend it at this point to go to the same day.
But if you vote for a Saturday, who wants to go to a meeting at 6 o'clock Saturday night?
Not me. Yeah, no, I
Yes, Amanda.
So just a question for Guy. So if we did it on town meeting day in the evening, does that help with the Australian ballots, or no, because they're going until 7 o'clock? Or?
The ballots stop at 7 o'clock. That's when voting stops, and that would make it, somewhat easier, for sure.
So if we had a 6:30 meeting?
And again, this year, what we have to do with the Australian ballot is we have to do the counting and then bring it to Townsend for the final count. So that's going to put us till 9, 10 o'clock at night, probably easily.
So it does not really help you to
No,
do it
not
on
really.
town meeting day
Not really.
in the evening?
But again, I'm up for trying. My suggestion was that, or my thinking was that we try it for 1 year, see what we get for a response, see if it increases the participation, and if not, the select board can next year put an article in and say, let's move it back to the Tuesday that we've had, or at an evening.
I guess that's what I was trying to say, too, is if we try it for a year, then they can change it to something, if it doesn't work.
Margaret?
I don't understand how we can't make an amendment to this article when we could make an amendment to Article 9, which was raising money, additional money to be appropriated. So if we could do it for Article 9, why can't we do it for Article 13?
Good question.
So when we examined this, we were allowed to set a time as a select board, but there are legal warnings that are required among us to have the town meeting vote. Now, we could also warn, this was one option, we could have warned a separate town meeting type meeting to have everyone come together to vote on when to hold future town meetings. But there are...
Yeah, special town meeting.
So we're a little hamstrung in how we have to do this, but... so we had to warn it in advance to discuss it and vote on it here for next year. But if people have feedback, we could even do a preemptive warning next year. But by the law, because this is a state statute, we had to follow the Vermont laws.
I have a follow-up for that. When I first moved to this town and it was primary day, I can remember coming in up through the building and Cynthia now sitting in the first classroom, and we voted here. And we could have moved today's vote. We couldn't have moved it.
Can't do it. Can't be in the same place.
It can't be in the same place?
No.
When did that law change?
That's why.
Well, we don't have use of it anyway.
This is not our building, we rent it.
Yeah, so we don't use.
We have this.
Oh, we only have this space.
We only have
Right.
this space.
I get it.
Unless you could put back to the room or something.
I wonder why we couldn't do it
If we had the meeting in the meeting house, we could have part of it in the sanctuary, and part of it in the.
Couldn't be in the same place. There's something in the background.
Well, you
So I guess
have to be
just clarify
ADA.
something about Paul's question is that if we were to, the struggle is if we can't know until we would try changing it, what the attendance would be like. And at the point of that meeting, it is too late for us to warn changing it back. So really, if we were to, it would take a couple of years to be able to get it back.
I guess that's what I was trying to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
We can change it if we
Yeah,
don't.
or, and that's what we discussed, as Chris alluded to, we discussed the possibility, we could warn a special town meeting, but that seems a little nonsensical to decide this meeting that we've already, so it's, yeah.
So I guess I'm missing one thing. I'm sorry, excuse me.
So why can't we just change the time on Tuesday? Because it would be the same day. And then try a Saturday later.
Just like we changed the time this year.
Well, the way the article is written here,
We have to go to
so you have to vote this article down. And then the board can decide to, you can go to a board meeting, the board is hearing you today, they can make the change within that town meeting day, whatever time they want, as long as they give adequate warning within that process. David?
I guess what I'd sort of summarize for us as a board, because I don't know that, not all of us are in agreement that moving to Saturday would be a good idea. The struggle is we want to encourage more participation, but we also don't want to shift it so that the people who can make town meeting now don't show up and it's just a different or smaller group of people. So
if we vote this down, could we then, as a town, advise the board to move town meeting day to a later time on Tuesday and to do some research into Vernon, and there's a couple of other towns that do that Wednesday, to what time they start. 5 o'clock would be way too early for anyone who works in Brattleboro, but maybe 6, starting with the potluck and gathering at 6:30 or 7, we can do it.
I think under Article 14, any other business?
Oh.
And and if, when we get to that point, if you wanted to have a formal vote taken, just to pull the room, you can do that, although keeping in mind the fact that that vote isn't binding on the board in any way, shape, or form, but it would perhaps give them some guidance in making decisions.
Especially, we want to know what you thought.
It's dark, there's snow, there's freezing rain.
When we get to that point, I'll go to you for a motion on that. So any other discussion on Article 13?
One thing, by law, it's either that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. So those are the days that we can have a town meeting on. Okay, Saturdays.
And those would be prior to the first Tuesday.
Right, 3 days prior.
The other thing to consider about an evening meeting in March The other thing to consider about an evening meeting in March is the weather. Ice, dark, snow, sleet, freezing rain, hard to get to, school might be out, that kind of thing.
Another day in Vermont.
Another day in paradise.
I mean, we've got stuff coming Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, other discussion on this? All right, let's go to a vote, and I just want to be careful to make sure you know what you're voting on. The motion was that we would be changing town meeting day to Saturday from this first Tuesday. So if you vote yes on this motion, you're voting for the change to Saturday. If you vote no, you're basically voting to keep it on the Tuesday. Don't worry about the time. Does that make sense? All those in favor of changing to a Saturday town meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
Yeah. I don't know.
About raising
Wow. Let's see, if we do a show of hands. Actually, we all need to stretch a little bit. Let's see, if you're somebody who would like town meeting to be on the Saturday, would you stand up and go to this side of the room? We're dividing the house here. Go to this side of the room. If you're somebody who's opposed, let's go to this side.
I think so. Is this a yes? Come on. I said Saturday.
This is the I like Saturday side. This is I'd rather stay on Tuesday. Pick a partner on the other side.
Bruce, I thought you were the fourth.
Looking at this,
He's going for evening.
He was the one that said he wanted to have Saturdays. Whatever.
It's like teaching school again.
Hey, hello, you brought this up, you're on the
Is there anything you want to say? That is what it is.
We're out of order right now. Okay, my ears don't hear as well as they used to, but my eyesight is still pretty good. And I would say there are more people standing over on this side of the room than there are on this side.
I think you're right.
So, you can return to your seats. Thank you.
Well.
Introduce yourself to the person next to you. Tell them something special about your life. All right, I'm learning a few things here. So, let's complete this. Article 13 has been defeated, and town meeting for the foreseeable future, at least for next year, will occur on this Tuesday. The timing of that is yet to be determined. Margaret? Hang on, where are you going?
No, it's got to be next.
All right. And Scotty, are we holding you up here terribly?
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me.
We came for the food.
All right. So we're down to Article 14, which is to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. Again, anything we do under this article is not binding. But I will turn it over to Margaret Carasona at the moment, since this is sort of more pertinent than anything else.
I'd like to advise the select board to look into nightly meetings for our town meeting. We could start with a potluck and then continue on. Vernon actually has theirs split. They do it Monday evening, Tuesday evening, and so the day before. They were done last night. Over. And I think it's a good way to go. I think we'll have more people here. And I really think it's worthwhile. So I would like to say that we're going to be looking for more people to look at different things.
I'm trying to understand how Vernon can have it on Monday nights because they split their
Suspend
town
it to date and time if it doesn't.
Suspend the meeting. What was that?
They suspend the meeting like we did with the dog community. You suspend the meeting to a date and time, finish it on another day.
Right.
And they do a lot of Australian balloting.
Yes, Pat?
That would be good because if it's really bad weather, you have an automatic
I'm sorry, what did she say?
Can people speak up?
I didn't say this at the beginning, but your comments should be addressed to the moderator and not to each other. Tomorrow.
I was thinking that a Monday, if we can consider a Monday evening, that would solve both the daytime hour issue and the Tuesday election issue.
But we would not have this room available.
But on a Monday evening?
No. A Monday evening?
A Monday evening.
Why not?
Oh. They're here till 6:30.
They're here till 6:30?
Well, maybe that's something we can discuss.
I could.
Okay, so thought? Chris?
One thing we have to keep in mind is that we would have to warn a meeting to hold it on a different day again.
Yeah.
So right now, I don't know if we want to just consider next year's Tuesday for a potential evening time, just to keep that in mind, so no one's disappointed if that we're not doing it a different day. I'm not sure.
I don't remember a town meeting being canceled in the if it's bad weather on Tuesday night, couldn't the select board meet somehow electronically? And, you have to be in person?
Yes.
Okay. But cancel the meeting for another night. But they meet earlier in the day because the weather's going to be so bad that, we'll find a way. I don't know.
It's not part of town government. I remember the years that one year we got locked out before the weather. That took all sorts of acts of God throughout the state, so figure out what to do.
You have to call the meeting to order, even if there's only 3 people here. Call the meeting to order, and the only agenda item you can cover is what's the date and the time of this meeting is going to be postponed.
Yeah, I think I remember that. We were here, regardless of the weather, that the meeting was called to order. You had to, because it just, you can't just suspend the meeting without it coming to order.
And then suspend.
And then you suspend it.
Regardless that we can't set a different date now, we do have the option as a board to warn a meeting that would determine our meeting date. So we could all get together any time in the next year to change the date. So we just can't do it today at this point.
Would you like to change it to Monday evening?
We could, but we need another, we need a meeting.
You have to warn a special meeting.
We need a special meeting.
Special meeting.
Which you've done
before.
We've done it before. We had to do it 1 year when we got
Would a show of hands from the group, just in terms of the people who favor an evening meeting?
That'd be good.
Be helpful to you.
Certainly.
So, anybody in the audience who might be in favor of it, it's not to say it's going to happen.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then maybe we talk sorry.
No, go ahead.
So then, if that's the case, or if people want to change it, so I think we have two kinds of issues on the table. One would be, are people interested in changing the day of the meeting? Right? And we also are talking about an evening. So either we're talking about Tuesday evening, because we just decided we weren't changing the day, or we're talking about advising the select board to consider changing the day, which would mean warning another special meeting.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't know. Take it from there, David.
All right, well, so you've got two different things. You've got those who might be in favor of the night meeting being one issue, and you've got the day of the meeting being another issue.
I would start with the day of.
So how many people would be in favor of a day other than a Tuesday?
Well, are you speaking evening now?
No.
Yes.
In the evening,
Other day than Tuesday.
Yes.
As an evening, if you're talking about another day, say a Monday.
that's,
I think a Monday is also.
Monday, and we'd be talking evening. In the evening. Yeah, you guys count it? Okay.
We can use the meeting.
I have a problem.
Okay, good. How about a Tuesday evening?
Yeah, this is the problem.
Can this be that any evening, just any evening? I don't care what that is.
Scientifically.
Well, no, I meant like, but any evening that is allowed by the statute, I'm just pro evening at this point. Is everyone just interested in an evening time, regardless of the day?
All right. So
I'm not really like sold on Tuesday or
that's a good
Monday.
suggestion. If you're in favor of an evening meeting, raise your hand.
There we go. There we go.
Days by statute.
You like it?
Saturday, the preceding Saturday, preceding Sunday, or preceding Monday are the only days that legally it could be moved to.
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing here. As far as what Guy was talking about, it seems to me there are two people who aren't here, who are over, at the town office, and I think we should consider that as a legitimate thing. So I would really strongly suggest that if we're going to move it to an evening, it should be a Monday, or,
And one of the
that's my
reasons
point. I mean, we're guaranteeing two people aren't going to be here.
If we keep
By having it now.
I also think that, I grew up in a town where they had their town meeting in a large enough facility that you had your Australian ballots for the day going on with the town meeting, basically in the same space. And I think that it's hard enough to get people to come out to one event a week, let alone two. So if there was a way to make it so that your ballot is taking place on the same day in near enough, like in a close enough facility that people could, like Guy and Gwen could do the dance and switch spots, they could both be present for parts of it. I just don't see why it can't take place in basically the same place.
It's the law.
Well, yeah, number one, I'm mandated by statute to take the minutes of the meeting for the town meeting. So, I mean, that's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing, the elections are, the Australian ballot is a time-consuming setup thing and so forth, and we stop voting at 7 o'clock. Then there's the counting and, the administrative ends of the balloting. So sometimes, like during the presidential primary, we don't get out of the office till around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. There's many things that go on that a lot of people don't understand that go on after the vote is counted. So, Tuesday, the only objection I have was Tuesday, and only because we seem to have more voting going on Tuesday. For some reason, some people have forgotten there's more than one day, there's 365 days. But we do everything on the same day in Vermont, and it just makes me a little crazy. But having said that, my objection was just that Tuesday. I don't care if it's Sunday or Saturday or an evening. But Tuesday evening makes it difficult for trying to get people to help us in the election division. The select board during a presidential election or a primary, we're going to have a lot of votes, and we need to have the select board because they're part of the BCA. The BCA is responsible for elections. So that's why I'm saying Tuesday is for me, and for the people who do the work in the elections, it's a very difficult time.
Jordan?
So, if and when the select board would like to communicate this information to the town, we would put a warning in the newspaper, we would post on our 3 bulletin boards, and we would send out a notice through Julie Laborg's listserv that a special meeting is being held to decide the date and time for the 2019 town meeting day. So that's where we're at this time, and the select board, I'm sure, will be proactive in addressing this.
And I think, if this is something that you are going to talk about amongst yourselves, and to make sure your meeting is well advertised, so if anybody has something to throw into that discussion before, you come up with whatever it is you're going to present to them.
It will be an agenda item, I'm sure, for several meetings.
Yeah, so just maybe a special notice to the townspeople that this is coming up on the agenda for May 4th or whatever the date is. Love to hear from you.
David, we just took a show of hands for nights. Do we see a show of hands for Monday night to see so we can get an impact as to whether people are more inclined to have Tuesday or Monday, just so that we would know?
Okay.
All in favor of Monday, all in favor of Tuesday.
Let's see, how many people would prefer a Monday night over a Tuesday?
Thank you, thank you. You don't have to make dinner.
Did we already do this?
No, it was just, no, we did, we just did all nights.
How many people would
Get
prefer
out.
a Tuesday?
Tuesday night?
So a Monday night is a clear preference as opposed to Tuesday. Yeah.
If we have it on Monday night, and if there's bad weather, legally, we could move it to Tuesday.
That's true.
3 of us would have to come here, start the meeting, and suspend it for emergency purposes.
4 of us.
4 of us.
Yes, ma'am.
The school board meeting that's happening after this will really not be happening next year. So the only thing the town needs is town meeting.
Right.
The school board will meet and disband it, because it's going to be one vote for the budget for the whole district.
That's right.
And I'm assuming it's going to be posted on the ballot.
Yeah, this question came up before the meeting, Scotty. Will each town still maintain the board?
I can't honestly answer that question. I can't imagine, I don't know the laws around it, but I can't imagine what the purpose will be, right? Because we are becoming one district. So just like, on the other hand though, we've become one, Newbrook is a district. And there are still the 2 meetings. But the Brookline meeting doesn't include a vote on the budget. The district meeting, or the Newbrook meeting, Brookline Newfane Joint Board meeting includes a vote.
So there would still have to be some sort of meeting though where Brookline's representative to this new board was elected from the people of Brookline.
I would imagine that would have to happen.
My understanding,
You would still need a treasurer?
well, my understanding is the new super board takes effect on July 1st of 19.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and there is a budget vote on the Newbrook school budget, as Scotty indicated. But there will not be a vote at town meeting on the fiscal year 2019 budget for the super board schools. So there will not be that vote at next year's town meeting.
So there won't be any budgetary vote?
That's correct.
Yes, Scotty.
Just to clarify, I'm going to see if I can't get Mr. Antoine on the telephone real quick. This reminds me a little bit of last year.
Yeah, really.
And just see if he understands what the expectation is.
Great.
I would imagine, just like we're electing a school director today, next year we're going to have to, well, maybe not.
No,
You only
no.
have one
No.
person.
It's going to be a super board.
And there will no be,
Election next year.
There's still going to be representation from Brookline on the board, but it's one entity.
That will be.
There's not the joint, right now
Right,
we're
but
a joint.
how do we, the voters of Brookline, know who to send to this meeting? There has to be a designated Brookline rep.
Okay. Whomever you elect today to replace me will be a rep on the school board for the transition, which will occur in 2019. Okay? So there is whomever you elect will be a transitional representative until the super board takes place.
What happens after that?
Pardon?
What happens after that?
Then you have your representative that you elected last year, Alicia O'Donnell, on the super board.
Right.
So that's how it works. So any election that occurs this year is an election to fill a term in the future, but effectively it's a transitional position.
So I'm still not following this out through the future. At some point, we're going to have to elect a new representative to that board. It's not a life position.
It's a 3-year.
Right.
We elected somebody for 3 years.
Alicia O'Donnell.
At what meeting
Alicia O'Donnell.
are those people elected?
Pardon?
At what meeting are those people elected from our town?
We don't have a town anymore. It's all a super.
no, but when would the election take place?
Brookline has a seat on this board, am I correct?
That is
Right, that's
So
all.
how does that person get elected in 5 years from now?
Beats me.
From what I understand, the super board represents all 5 towns and school districts. And when they have a meeting, they will have a meeting, and all towns will participate in that meeting. And that's when they will elect the representatives. But I thought one has to come from Brookline, one has to come from, or 2 have to come from Newfane, and so forth.
And all those votes will be done by Australian ballot.
Yep.
Yeah. Samantha.
So you're saying that the Brookline School District Director that we're going to vote today for a 3-year term will be our representative until their term is up, potentially. But we don't have to elect. So why are we electing a Leland and Gray School District Director for 3 years when that will no longer exist?
Because the existing term limitations are still in place, even though effectively they won't.
Yes.
I mean, that's the best way to explain it. They won't be because you're not going to have the board that we have now. Yeah,
it's so,
crazy.
There's so many.
It's crazy and it's kind of
I think all of our votes from now on, starting today, will be done by Australian ballot because we also elect an at-large candidate that can come from any town.
Right.
And if you voted already today, you'll see some writing places. And if you read on the front porch forum, you'll see some people have written about wanting to get on the ballot. So all of our votes are paper ballot, which I'm very
except for the existing vacancy on our school board and a potential appointee to replace someone else.
Anything else under Article 14? Here.
I'd like to thank our select board for being very proactive in getting a lot of stuff done. That's been backing up over the years and prioritizing a lot of things and cleaning up a lot of old stuff that's been hanging around. I'd also like to thank our town clerk who's on top of things. I think he collected more delinquent taxes than anybody has in the past few years. And our treasurer for getting the books balanced. And for Archie and his crew and Mark for maintaining our roads. They're the best shaped roads I've ever seen. Been here 30 years. Just want to thank you.
What did I miss?
They elected you president.
No, they did not.
I want to thank Gary Livornia for, if you look, once the ice melts, if you look around the perimeter of this building, you'll see that there's a lot of stone that was put down and a lot of mulch that was put down and stuff. And that was largely done because Gary volunteered to bring his tractor down and help us do it on weekends. And it was a huge help to us.
Team effort.
Yeah. Thank you. And also, though she's not here, a big thanks to Julie Livornia, who proofread our drafts of the entire town report and helped us clean up a bunch of stuff that would have been missed otherwise. So.
Tomorrow's reorganization meeting, one of the things that we will talk about are our goals for next year. And I do want to thank you for passing our budget. In our budget this year is an additional $2,000 that is going to be spent on the 5 ancient cemeteries this year and hopefully going forward that have gone into quite a bit of disrepair. We have these 5 cemeteries around town, not the one on Hill Road, but they need to have work done, and I know Chris is volunteer. We will be asking for additional volunteers for people from the community that can come out and help us get these ancient cemeteries back to a less wild state of being. So again, if you want to volunteer, get out this summer. We're glad to have you.
A couple of things I wanted to say. Is it appropriate now? We got Scotty come back.
Yeah, we've actually,
Oh, we didn't go to school time.
we're at 11:15 here.
Let's get the school stuff done. Finish up.
I mean, we're so close to finishing this up. Is there a great groundswell to start the school portion of the meeting? There's all this food sitting back there too.
Well,
Our principal is here, he's chomping at the bit.
we have 5 more minutes.
Did you find anything with your phone call?
You know, I tried everything to communicate with everybody, and it's pretty hard down here in Brookline. I found a landline in one of the classrooms, and Mr. Anton is not in the office, and I can't get him on his cell, and I can't get him at home, and I can't send an email or send a text, so I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I did my best, though, I can assure you.
Okay, it's all right. So it looks like they're meeting up 11 p.m. School board session over next. Anyways, Bruce, go ahead.
I assume we're finishing up with this.
We're wrapping up. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make a couple of points.
Okay, I'd like to keep any comments at 2 minutes or so.
That's good. I just wanted to mention that the fund balance for the meeting house is, as of the end of last year, and now it's how much? $17,000, $18,000?
They got a lovely grant for about $7,900 and some odd dollars. And 7,000, I can't remember the picture exactly. And the matching funds from the revolving loan fund were transferred this year, so it's back up to about $18,000. And a lot of work got done. So now the next step, I would say, to perhaps step on Bruce's toes a little, is to say now we really have to start building people, encouraging ways to use that building and find more ways to make it more habitable across seasons perhaps, and things along those lines, which it's well on its way to becoming, which is kind of exciting. It was a great committee, and they need some new members, so.
Especially a program director.
Well, that's your department.
No, I step on my toes.
Okay. But yeah, I know a lot of young people have expressed interest in using the building, so now we have to find ways to make it possible.
I only have one last point. If you haven't read the town report, it's really good this year. I certainly have 20 minutes to really go through the important things other than all the details and the budgets and stuff. So I really encourage you to read it, because each of the person, treasurer, town clerk, road commissioner, all made really good points. Just lastly, read the last paragraph when you get them in the WCSU superintendent report. It kind of says what I was saying before about your participation in each of the board meetings. It's really important you read that. It's only about 4 sentences. Do that, and hopefully you'll be motivated to come to these meetings. I know it's not fun, but it's worth it. That's it for me.
Sure.
One more point, we're in Article 14, correct?
Yes.
We do have a resignation from one of our current school board members, and that position will have to be filled, and we would like to fill it and appoint someone. So in addition to the election of one person, if anyone is interested, please see Alicia O'Donnell, because we would like to be able to go the next year with a 3-person Brookline board. So I really encourage you to contact Alicia if you're interested, especially anybody who's got kids. But it's a great experience, and we need to fill that, and somebody needs to go there.
I don't know, you were next one. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the town meeting. So moved. And, well, let me lay out my map here, if it's all right with you, Scotty. I don't want to keep you longer than I know you got. Probably jumping between 2 towns here, and 3, maybe 3. Well, I was going to suggest we take a break in here, but again, I don't want to, if this is going to screw you up.
If you folks need a break, I'm happy to eat. Wait with you or?
Let's finish it.
I think.
Let's get the school and then we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
All right, what we can do, entertain a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. We can begin the school part, elect the moderator, suspend the rules, to allow Scotty to speak to us, and then we can take a brief recess for some lunch. And then come back to this quicker than the select board. So, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the town meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. Town meeting 2018 over. Looking at the school portion. The legal voters of the Brookline School District are hereby notified and warned to meet and vote by floor vote at the Brookline School Multipurpose Room, Sunnyland Daycare, on Tuesday, March 6, 2018, at 11 a.m. to consider and act upon the following articles. Article 1 is to elect a moderator for a 1-year term. Nominations would be in order.
I nominate David Parker.
David Parker's been nominated. Any other?
Second.
Don't need to second nominations, but thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of electing David Parker as the moderator for the Brookline School District meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. You've elected me to be the moderator for this 1 year. I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules of the meeting to allow Scotty Tabachnik, principal of the Newbrook School, to speak to us. So moved. Second to that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of suspending the rules to allow our principal to speak to us? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The floor is yours.
Thank you, folks. My name is Scotty Tabachnik. I'm school principal at Newbrook Elementary School. First, I have to start by saying that I work for you. So having me sit there and have you have lunch is not at all something that should be out of bounds. But I do appreciate the fact that you're considering the fact that I'm going to go over and vote in my town, which is in Dummerston, right over the hill. I have I have some really good news, I feel like, and so I want to say that, at this time when the news can be a little unruly, I've got some really nice, very pleasant, positive things to say about what you're investing in over the hill at the school. I want to start by saying thank you to the board and the school board and to the voters for being so supportive of our programming. We have 120 children at the school. Our smallest class is 14, but that's only one, and we have one of 15, but the rest of them are 19 or 20. We're a pretty full building, and it feels good to be in the building. I have some highlights of the good news that I want to bring up. First of all, in terms of curriculum and instruction, we made a change this year, and we implemented building-wide a curriculum called Engage New York, which is web-based, and it's kind of crowd-driven. So what that means is that teachers all around New York were adding to the curriculum, and then it was being vetted by members of the teaching force in New York State. It's been spread. It's almost ubiquitous around here. Most of the schools in Brattleboro use it. It's aligned to the Common Core, and it really has a flow. And that's what I really wanted. Mathematics is very chronological, and in terms of what children need to learn. And this curriculum is really allowing us to make sure that we're hitting all the points, we're pre-teaching and reteaching, and we're looking for kids who are struggling. I'm really proud of how that's gone, and it's really hard on the teachers starting a new curriculum, and using a new curriculum. We had a couple of teachers who used it the previous year, and then they gave us advice on what we ought to do. And we decided as a group that we were going to move forward. I'm very proud of that choice, and I think we're going to be leading the WCSU in that direction as well. Also this year, we've got a grant for 911 compliant telephones. So our telephones were about 20 years old, and although they were perfectly functional, if you picked up a phone in, let's say, Ms. Van Pamelin's classroom and dialed 911, it would say that something was happening at Newbrook Elementary School. Now when you pick up a phone in that same classroom, it's got a map of the building and it shows exactly where the phone was picked up. It's very important in terms of modern policing and modern security, and the state government was giving a grant, and our board, the Brookline Newfane Joint Contract Board, voted to support that and match it. So now we have brand new phones, and we're 911 compliant. I also want to brag a little bit about our farm to school program is very important to a lot of the teachers in my building. It's also very important to me. It's one of the things that attracted me to work for you. We're really teaching children that place is very important, and that local economy and local community and local workforce and local elders are very important to the way, well, to back up a little bit, I try really hard to consider what the realtors are going through. And I consider one of the most important parts of my job to make our building a very attractive place to new families. And one of the ways we can do that is by making sure that our kids are aware of the pleasure it is to grow up in Vermont. And in that way, maybe they'll be more inclined, like you, to stay here as an adult.
Not stuck yet.
I really have to say, it's just a pleasure to see people that I taught remaining in Vermont and maybe making a choice to grow a family. So, our farm to school program is very important to me, and this Emily Bullock, our school counselor, and Ms. Hurley spearhead that with plenty of help from the PTO and other family members. This year we earned a $15,000 implementation grant, which means that you're probably going to be seeing a hoop greenhouse on our property. I think that we'll be expanding our gardens. I want to build some raised beds in the same manner that I built them in my home, which I found a cheap way to do it, and they look sharp, and they're made of cedar, so there's no arsenic. And we hired Chef Chris is our chef. He's amazing. We hired this guy. He used to work at the Farm Table in Bernardston, which is a really high-end, beautiful restaurant that most of us can't afford to go to. He's now cooking for your kids and for the children in Brookline. Well, the reason why I mentioned him is because he wants to, as part of this grant, buy a freestanding and rolling salad bar, which is amazing. And I want to give you some numbers because I got these numbers last week. Our breakfast offering Last year, we did 29% of our kids ate breakfast at school. This year, 59%. Last year, 61% of our kids ate lunch at school. This year, 71%. Now, that's an amazing thing, because we all know the correlation between a full belly and a mind that's able to learn. So I'm really excited about that. I think that has a lot to do with the quality of food that Chris is serving. I also though think that his relationship with the kids, I would actually invite all of you, send me an email, tell me when you want to come to lunch. It is a nice place to eat. I don't have the numbers here, but the numbers of teachers and staff that are eating at school, I don't know the numbers, but my guess is we've grown 500%. And that's kind of a misnomer because I don't think too many people were eating it last year, and we have a lot of people eating, including myself. I want to say thank you to the Energy Committee. And I'm just going to say this, we kind of lucked out. There's some new tariffs in place, there's some new tax laws that are changing in terms of solar. We have a solar field behind our school on 4 acres of our land. It cost us some big pine trees. But what we're getting is $26,000 a year in revenue for the next 30 years. And we're getting 15% off all our electric bills. And you might think that's not a big deal, but now that we're heating with the air-to-air heat pumps and cooling with the air-to-air heat pumps, we're using a lot more electric. We are not burning fossil fuels on our property with very few exceptions. This winter, because we had only we had that one really cold spell where it was down below -5. And at that point, our other heating system kicked on. Besides that, we've been heating with electric, and I think we're modeling really good stewardship. We're modeling really good, clean behavior on our part. Along with this, we were a year ahead of the law in terms of composting, which we've been doing now for a full year and a half. And it's really funny, when we have evening programs at night, the children all know how to sort compost, recycling, and landfill. But the adults that are guests at our school aren't as aware. And it's a really funny thing. And I think that what we're going to do, it's really not that funny. I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably have a couple of waste czars. The children who are going to help adults to sort at the cans. Because we, of course, are a little behind the time. We also made a kitchen improvement right before Chris Parker joined us. He's our chef. We expanded our kitchen, we knocked out some interior walls. You know, that kitchen was never meant to be feeding all of our kids. And so we knocked out a wall between a closet, we knocked all the stuff out, and now we have a dishwasher, a small commercial dishwasher, and we're using silverware instead of throwing plastic into the dump. And it's just, what's happening in our kitchen is really exciting. And I think it has a lot to do with the things that the PTO asked for. It has a lot to do with the surveys that we've taken of our parents, and it has a lot to do with the hard work of Ms. Bullock and Ms. Sperling, who've been really spearheading a lot of this work in the school. The WCSU, first of all, if you haven't met Mr. Bill Antone, I suggest you try to do so. He's my boss, he's a great guy. I just tried to raise him on the phone. I'm bringing him up because at the beginning of this year, he got us into a relationship with a man named Robert Evans. He works now for the AOE, but he's a lifelong state police officer. He is auditing all of our safety plans. And now this is not a response to what's been happening recently in the news. This was a kind of just a forward-thinking thing that Mr. Antone decided to do. What we're doing is every month we're sending by a different plan to Mr. Evans, and he's having a really close look at what we would suggest. He's also inspiring us to do things like a couple weeks ago I went out to the Newbrook Fire Department, to the firehouse. And I took a tour, and first of all, I got to say, you guys built a great firehouse, and you have wonderful gear at the firehouse. It's beautiful. I really like that kind of thing anyway, just to see the old trucks that have been rehabbed and just are in immaculate shape. But I also have to write a plan for if say, I don't know, Route 30, a truck turned over that had some hazardous material, and we had to relocate all our kids. They'd be relocated to the room where you play bingo. We would have them in groups, and I need to formalize a plan to get them back together with their families. and I haven't had a formalized plan, and I'm doing that this year. So we're going through all of our emergency plans, and with the news that's around the country right now, I think it's especially timely. But I do want you to know that it wasn't in response. We started it in August. Currently, I'm hiring a school nurse and a one-year third-grade teacher. Our third-grade teacher is going overseas with her family, with all three of her teenage daughters and with her husband, and they're going to teach in India. And while they're gone, we're going to hire an intern person for 1 year. And we are also looking for a library media specialist. And I want to stop there for a second. Miss Now is retiring this year, and I heard her name mentioned already a few times here today, but you know, Miss Now has done more for this community in her hard work in life. It's just unbelievable. And I just want to say thank you, Miss Now, for all that you've done for all the kids of Brookline and Newfane, and for your family, and for the Valley at large. We're going to really miss her. It's going to be a hard, you know, I go to her with questions that only she can answer. And it's going to be very difficult. I hope that she stays by phone. Let's give it up for Miss Now. I think it's really easy right now for us to hire in the WCSU. Our central office is stronger than ever, and that's under the guidance of Mr. Bill Antone. I've been noting, I mean, our last hires since I've been working here have been so strong. Our pools are so strong, and I just really think that is due to the momentum that we have moving forward. And it's all about improvement. And I think we're in great shape, but there's always room to improve in a school or any organization. And we're all about looking at the details and minutiae and trying to solve problems and trying to take us a step forward. I want the Valley to be a place where people will be attracted who have families, who are raising kids, because the best thing we can do for our schools and for school funding and for tax rates is to fill the seats. So that's what I'm really trying to do. If you look at our Facebook page, you'll see a really concerted effort. Lastly, I've been cut along. Thursday, March 8th, that's this Thursday at 6 o'clock, we're having a school board meeting. We also, as you might be reading, there's a storm coming. So I've been asked to remind everybody that if we have a snow day on Thursday, our school board meeting will be Monday, March 12th at 6 p.m. And that came from Ken McFadden checking in with Mr. Antone. So again, if there's a snow day on Thursday, it's going to be Monday, March 12th, and you will certainly see kids on the playground in late June. As we open. So, you know, and that's fine. That's the way, I like what you said. That's give and take, living in Vermont, and the storm's going to be pretty, that's for sure. Thank you all, and thank you for your continued support. Yes, sir?
Do you have a backup generator at the school?
We do not have a backup generator at the school. That's a very good question. Whenever there's a storm with wind, I sit on my office, twiddling my thumbs, and worrying. Because, you know, if it's 1:30 in the afternoon, the power goes out, we're okay. But without power, we also don't have water. Can't flush any toilets. You ought to see me trying to explain to children not to flush. I got a little rhyme that you might know that...
And nobody has to go to the bathroom until the power goes out.
That's exactly right.
All have to go.
Lighting ends up not being really an issue. We've got a pretty bright building with a lot of windows, but water is the major issue. So if it would happen at 10 in the morning, it would be a real scramble. And of course, I cannot raise children, elementary age children, unless I have direct contact with a parent. So as you can imagine, when power goes down, so too do our telephones, and so it becomes quite an issue. So no, we do not. And we did look at a battery system. They're very, very expensive right now. But I would imagine that is probably where buildings like ours will go in the future. Would be really high output batteries rather than generators, probably. But right now it was $1 million for a Tesla battery that would power our building. I didn't feel like bringing that to the townspeople. So, any other things that I could do for you? Please take me up on the offer. Send me an email. Come to the school. Have a look around. We're doing great things, and I really want you to be proud of your school. Do you have questions?
Will there be a summertime program for kids for lunch and breakfast?
So we don't have or let me back up. We have a summer camp that a lot of children are involved in. It is housed at Newbrook, which is great, and Miss Van Pamela runs that program. They serve breakfast, snack, lunch, and I believe a snack at the end of camp. That's for 6 weeks in the summer. We don't have a standalone lunch or a meal program over the summer. However, there are meal programs in Brattleboro that I think are mobile, I believe is how it works. Is that right? Do you know, Sam? I believe that's how it works.
So how many kids can attend the camp?
I don't know if there is a top end. My building has quite a capacity, so I don't know if there is a top end, but I don't think we've ever had an issue with turning people away either. I will say that it's a really nice offering. It's got academic portions as well as food and athletics and activities. And Miss Van Pamela runs a very tight ship, as you can all imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, it's a pleasure. Want to run through? Okay.
Well, finish this,
We can do that. Article 2 is to elect all Brookline school district officers as required by law for the ensuing year. And here's a list of 3 positions. We go to the town officers elected page. Look down there, just going down. There's a school director position currently occupied by Sherry Green. That is going to be vacant. And that would be the first position that we would be looking at nominations for.
Nominate somebody.
No, this is hard. It's a lot of, probably 45 kids from this town.
We now have 36 kids from Brookline going to Newbrook Elementary School.
I keep waiting for young parents.
So we need participation.
I will nominate Sarah Webb.
Sarah Webb has been nominated.
I would second that.
Even though you don't have to, I think that's appropriate. Any other nominations? I presume, Sarah, that's okay with you? You're asking for your name out there?
Yes.
I figured you could take it up later.
We had an honor.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Don't let anybody get you there. Any other nominations? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of electing Sarah Webb to the vacant school director position, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Sarah. And as Sherry mentioned, there will be, because there has been a resignation, Aaron Dargo, there will be an appointment to be made by the 2 board members who are left. And so that would be forthcoming. So if you know of anybody who might be interested, talk with Sarah. Brings us to our next position, which is the school district treasurer. It's a 1-year term. Currently occupied by Samantha Bovat. Sam, you interested?
Sure.
So,
I nominate Samantha Bovat.
Okay. Samantha Bovat's been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of electing Samantha Bovat for school district treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. There you go, Sam. Better again. We've got a Leland and Gray school director position, currently occupied very graciously by Linda Bolt.
Thank you.
Not doing it again. She already tried to get out once. So she's back. So, Nominations for this position would be in order.
Are you willing to be nominated? No. Really? Sure.
So once, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Well. So we're at.
Bruce, you should.
Well, leave it vacant.
I nominate Bruce Miller.
I don't think so. No, I can't accept, I just can't do it with everything else I've got on my plate. I hate to decline, but I got it.
Oh, come on, Margaret.
No, I don't
You know your way around the hall, say.
Yeah, I know. I don't live here. I'm first to really. But, you know, Paul Dutton was very interested a few years ago.
Well, that's going to be vacant.
Excuse me, this is technically just a one-year position anyway, or until July of 2019, right? When the Act 46 Super Board gets up.
Right.
You still need to elect for the terms that are currently established, even though it's going to go away.
David, would you go?
No.
But it's probably gonna end in a year.
I should say no, thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I would do it.
No, we're cool.
Like, it's a year.
Year?
Well, I've done school board before.
It's not like the mafia, you can get out.
There will be some transition, but...
You're gonna love it so much, you're not ever, I think it goes a little longer than
I've
that.
been out of school board before and I loved it so much I hated it,
Goodness,
so.
right, it goes a little bit longer than
It goes
you.
till the new board.
But it's not necessarily gonna be the full 3
It's
year
not
thing.
going to be until 2021.
And it's phasing out to the new
Because
board.
I'm young enough, that's like forever. That's like, I can't even think that far ahead. So I would do it.
Okay, and your name?
Shelby Rimmer.
Brimmer?
Rimmer.
Okay. All right. Any other nominations? All right, let's vote. All in favor of electing Shelby Brimmer to the Leland and Gray School Director position, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Good. Congratulations, Shelby, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's the way it's done. Okay, Article 3, to compensate the directors and treasurer of the Brookline School District, $200 each.
So moved.
It's been moved to give them $200 each. Second for that? Second. Discussion? No, let's vote. All in favor of compensating the directors and the treasurer of the Brookline School District $200 each, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. School directors and the treasurer, $200 richer. Article 4, to authorize the school directors to accept any donations of land, gifts, or monies for school use. Need a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Of course not. This is the no-brainer article. Somebody gives you something for free, take it. Okay. So, you're authorizing the school directors to accept any donation of land, gifts, or monies for school use. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Article 4 passes. Article 5, to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. Again, not binding. Jerry.
I have a couple things that I would like to mention, if I may.
You may.
When we leave here, town hall vote for the 2 at-large super board positions. Be sure and do that, and then write in, I believe. Secondly, Alicia O'Donnell had planned to be here, but she had a prior commitment, so she is the super board representative for Act 46. which I worked on last year. But just to let everybody know, they are working now on a vision statement. That's Newfane, that's Brookline, that's Jamaica, Townsend. So that those towns and Wheeling and Gray represent the super board. But they are working on a vision statement now. There are representatives from each of those towns. It's very, very, very important, as Bruce mentioned earlier, to let people know what you'd like to see in terms of education for the future. So they do have meetings, Alicia can let you know when they are, but if you have something to say or would like to say it to your super board representative or to get involved, please do so, because this is your chance to decide how you want the educational system to be for the super board. So I can't stress that enough. It's really important. And I think that, and they do have meetings, and I believe they're on Mondays, Monday evenings, I'm not sure, at Leland and Gray. And it would be great if you could get the schedule. You can find out what the schedule is for their Act 46. Go to those meetings and listen and chime in, because they need to hear your voice. They need to hear our voices. Because we have a chance to impact what the educational system will do in the future.
And when the meetings are online, you can see everything online. If you're too busy, you can go to a meeting. If you can't go to a meeting, you want to follow it, you can do that. Also, I really encourage you, if you've got an issue or you want to talk to Bill Anton or Bob up at Leland Gray, call them up, make an appointment. I did. Bill Anton spent an entire hour with me. It was kind of surprised me. Superintendent of schools. We had a great exchange, and it was a different issue. I won't get into that, but I just encourage you to, especially if children, get involved. Find out what's going on. If you're really concerned about your tax base, that's where it starts.
You can find those schedules on Wyndham Central Supervisory Union website. You can find them on Leland and Gray's, Newbrook's. All the schools have the schedules for the Act 46 meetings. There are so many changes coming up. It really, I have to reiterate what Kathy said. We have to have a voice, and the only way to have a voice is to come to some of those meetings. There's just so many changes, so many questions. How's it all going to work? What are the logistics of it all? And it's going to be very confusing and stressful, but we need people out to have good conversations about moving forward.
I would like to thank Sherry Green for her service on that. Personally, as a former educator, appreciate the time you spent doing that.
It's been an interesting 4 years. I've learned an awfully lot, maybe more than I wanted to know sometimes. But it's been great, and we have a wonderful school. And if you haven't been there, you really ought to stop in and see the murals that the kids have done, and the kitchen work, which is terrific, and they have a harvest dinner, and the public is invited, and they have auctions, and you're invited to that, and it's just a really great school. We're so lucky to have Scott.
Yeah.
We are so lucky. He's very approachable. The kids really enjoy him. He's like a kid. and that's great to have that kind of energy teaching your children, because it's contagious.
This is a mutual admiration. I really just wanted to thank Bruce for his commitment to the Leland and Gray Board and the understanding and the hours that he put into resolving these situations for a couple of us. He's really a very key member of the school from Brookline.
Anything else?
Yes, lastly, hopefully it's the last one. About Scotty. You know that $26,000 lease payment you made, that he said we're getting from Sun Edison, or it's a company that took over
Well,
for Sun
it's
Edison?
the third company after Sun Edison.
Yeah, right. When we were doing,
Tell you.
just a thing of discussion, here, very quick. When we were discussing who we were going to get for bids for the solar panels, it was Scotty that actually keyed into the fact that this one company now is bankrupt, but the succeeding company picked up the contract, and we didn't know what was going to happen for the $26,000. So like Sherry's saying, he's been instrumental in making huge changes up there, and you all should be thankful that you got him as your principal.
And they're still pushing to get, I mean, we got first deposit, the first payment. But they were a little slow in January, so they pushed them and got another one. So, we're very fortunate that we get $26,000 a year. Panels are there, everything will be done within the next couple months, and then we get our 15% off on top of the 26, right?
And that's for 20 years.
For the
30 years.
20 years.
company that has gone.
I thought he said 30 years.
Do we know when that's going to be turned on?
We think in the next couple months, Scott, the
Will be
equipment,
advertised.
yeah, the equipment is there, the panels are there, we're just, I think, just waiting for the letter. The kids have all seen it, and they've asked questions, and they're very interested in it too.
Anything else? I've entertained a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Anybody votes against this, it's all in favor of adjourning the school district meeting, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Good. Great, thank you guys.
You didn't sign in, you board.